Mancreet City, circa 2019. Population just over 3 million and growing. A truly utopic society, or at least pretty damn close. The local economy is as good as it gets. The politic types make things happen to actually better its citizens. Crime is at an all-time low, but it wasn't always that way. Oh, so who am I? That's a good question. No one. Just a remnant of a city that once was. And you know what? It's a miracle I made it alive through that dark age. I've seen a lot of shit, man. A lot of shit. Rival gangs killing each other and anyone that got in their way for years on end. The most destructive and incredible drug ever snorted, injected, or smoked by man. An empire of criminals taking absolute control of the city, running guns, trafficking drugs, corrupting local law enforcement and government, and a masked man hunting down every last one of them. Well, you know how they say it's always darkest before dawn. Bullshit. Nothing's darker than midnight. And when it was midnight in the heart of Mancreet, it seemed like all hope was lost. The city was on the threshold of slipping into something it could never have recovered from. Alright, so let's get into a little bit more detail, shall we? Where does the story start? I guess we'll start it with our friend, the vigilante. Now, it's up for debate if this guy saved the city or not. Just keep in mind, my memory's a little fuzzy. It's been a while. And Vasicaine's a hell of a drug. But I'm not on it anymore. I swear. Okay, fine, maybe my mind's not as sharp as it used to be. Alright, it's pretty much fried. But fuck you. Alright, I know what I'm talking about. Anyway. He seemingly came out of nowhere. The criminals that owned the city had no way of preparing themselves for this shitstorm coming their way. So the vigilante, he was... Wait. But I'm getting way ahead of myself here. The story starts way before that. Let's rewind a bit. And... there. We'll start with Shinto Enterprises. When you think criminals big time enough to control an entire city, you might think of some soprano wannabe motherfuckers. But these guys? Oh man, you wouldn't want to get in their way. Now, the organization was much bigger than you can imagine. But on the local level in Mancreet, the top dog just gets worse and worse the higher up you go. We've got Ian, the smooth-talking suck-up. Andrew, the right-hand man of the big cheese. He's an absolute psycho, and you'd never expect it. And in charge of the whole group is Thomas Anderson, an excellent businessman with a short temper. He obviously had to be, considering he owned the city in just a matter of years. So by the time Ian was hired... Wait, no. Gotta go back. Way back. Before the organization. So, since the birth of Mancreet, in the 30s and 40s, there were some gangs of criminals back then. Not much different than your Chicagos or New Yorks of the era. There were two at the start. Pretty run-of-the-mill. Well, pretty stereotypical, actually. They were up to what you'd expect. Smuggling booze into the city during Prohibition, forcing protective services onto local businesses, bribing police into showing a blind eye towards their less than wholesome activities. Back then, these guys weren't all bad, all things considered. They at least had a certain level of respect and honor, and generally kept innocents out of their affairs. And that was mutual amongst all of the different gangs. But that didn't last all that long. Somewhere down the road, feelings were soured towards each other, leading them to a bitter rivalry going far into the future. Generations down the line, 3 of the major gangs stayed afloat. 2 of them were family-based. The third was all business. A lot of backstabbing going on within it, but it was a leading gang in drug sales. The 80s were good to them, much like you would expect. Big wigs with big fat wallets who love their coke. So the 2 families, Saladino and Morelli, they didn't like this. But like you'd expect, they didn't like each other either. In fact, they loathed each other. The Morelli family, they've been in Mancreet since the beginning. Saladino, however, had a different start. Well, Saladino had nothing to do with the original gang. Until after the late 50s, that is, when a young kid about 10 or 11 started working as a courier. Saladino got the nickname Sal and rose through the ranks. After about 2 decades, he had a choice to make. And that choice led him to killing his boss and taking his place. Like I said with Morelli, they were around back at the start of the mobster boom. They secured their place with dealing weapons, arming everyone in town, not afraid of a criminal record. So they crossed paths a few too many times. Some insulting words were exchanged, bullets started to fly. So once the third entity entered that picture, it was all-out war between the three. None of them would side with the other. It was basically a citywide game of rock, paper, scissors. Every move one would make, the other would counter. And then the other would counter. And then that move, the other would counter. And the other would counter. And the other would counter. And that went on for a few decades. Over the years, they drifted to opposite points just outside the city, trying to keep their important guys safe. And that's when Anderson's organization, Shinto, moved in. Right off the bat, they tried to buy out the gangs. Only the independent one agreed. But that was enough to seize control of the entirety of Mancreet. And even then, the Morellis and Saladinos wouldn't join efforts. They actually seemed oblivious at what little impact they had in the criminal underbelly of the city. And as time went by, that criminal underbelly turned over. The bad guys were everywhere. They practically were everything. While Anderson did his thing with the city after a few years, our three mob bosses kept to themselves. But were far beyond the point of apologizing and agreeing to disagree. In the midst of the chaos that Mancreet became, the vigilantes started knocking heads, but seemed to be nothing more than a nuisance. And here the turning point and our story begins. So let's start with Marty Koufax.
Hey, honey. Looks like I'm gonna be stuck at the office a bit late. Yeah, again. But it shouldn't be too late. Yeah, I can do that for you. Pizza again? Alright, well, I'll pick up the usual. Alright, honey. I love you too.
Dad's home.
I'll take that.
Where'd you watch the ball game? What'd you tell me? We simply forgot, that's all. He's a harmless boy, Baron. Don't hurt him. Okay, but if you cross me up...
He won't.
All right, Pop. You got the ball.
What's wrong, dear?
Oh. I've had a lot on my plate lately at work. That's all.
Guess that's his weakness.
You were planning on going to your mom's this weekend, yeah?
No, sweetie. Nick, Amy, and I are going. Johnny said he's got to work. Well, I'm heading to bed. Are you coming?
Yeah. As soon as this old gangster flick is over, I'll be right up.
Okay. Night.
What's your name? What are you doing here?
You to fix the television set.
All right, bud.
I don't have any dough, if that's what you want. What is this?
This is Chico.
Chico, I need you to do something for me. My wife and kids are going to be out of town for the weekend. This is the time.
Right, sir.
So, what's the plan?
Bring me Morelli.
Well, do you really think that...
Morelli will come to you? He wants you dead more than anyone.
Don't worry, Chico. He hates that fucking Saladino just as much as me. So send him a message. You tell him Koufax wants to join forces to take out that no-good fucking Saladino.
Will do, boss.
But what about the vigilante? I already killed 3 more of our street guys.
Anderson told everyone that he could be possibly working for Saladino or Morelli. We take care of Morelli and Sal, no more vigilante.
What if
I
he...
don't care what if. He gets in our way in his fucking ass.
Yes, sir.
So I bet you weren't expecting that. Okay, maybe you were. Anyway, it explains his stuck in the office ruse. So earlier that day...
I love you too.
Mr. Koufax, we're all set for you.
Would you like to do the honors?
Well, of course. What kind of boss would I be if I wouldn't get my hands dirty? What kind of boss would I be?
Come on, Koufax, please. Look, just let me go and I'll disappear.
Sorry, pal. It's just business.
Marty Koufax? He was a king in the criminal world. He got an early start, rising through the ranks to become one of the top 3 motherfuckers in this whole criminal show. Well, Shinto owned Koufax, but he didn't know that. Ignorance is bliss, and that's how he kept it with the family. Only the eldest son, Johnny, was in on Daddy's secret. If Marty was good at one thing, it was planning. And he knew he'd be dead, whether it was decades, years, or weeks. He just wanted to be sure the rightful heir to his throne took over his legacy. Anyway, let's continue.
Dear, are you sure you don't want to come with?
I got a lot of catching up to do at the office, and if I don't get it done by Monday, my boss is going to be all over my ass.
Well, I just wish we could spend some family time together. It seems like you're always working.
I know, but if it wasn't for that job, we'd be broke, and our kids would grow up with little more than the clothes on their backs.
Well, it would be nice if you could leave the office on time for once. Or early every now and then.
I don't want to be poor. I love my life. Let him work as much as he wants.
Well, we better get going. Say goodbye to your father, Amy.
You be good, okay?
Mm-hmm. You too, Daddy.
Oh, you know I will. Hello, sweetie. I got some dirty work for you in Harlem.